And I think, like the NFL, you should be devaluing running backs. Get away, get away. And it's actually quite interesting because I went through the wide receivers today, and the way I kind of went through them and was kind of looking at the groupings. I think, and I'll talk about the wide receivers in a minute, but the top 20 wide receivers, you can pick them and you've got no issues. Whereas I think you're maybe missing out on those really good guys if you're picking the running backs. But I think there's more options, say, in the middle of the draft for running backs than there has in recent years because of the committee systems. Whereas I think when you get into the back end and, middle to back end of the wide receiver market, you're kind of missing out because you're now into, the wide receiver 3s and 4s, and you kind of probably wanted a 1 and 2 earlier. Whereas I think you can get a good committee guy that catches passes and get enough out of it. So I think structuring it as, you focus on getting 2 RBs that you're happy with, and then getting heaps of wide receivers is probably where I think fantasy's going at the moment. It's, that's the way the league likes to go. They want to pass and throw touchdowns. So having said that, my big avoiding list at the moment, I've got McCaffrey, probably because a lot of people are picking 1, and on my previous statement, I think you should be picking Jefferson 1, take the wide receivers. I'm interested in how the 49ers team makeup is going to be put together. Do have a lot of mouths to feed. They did split a lot of work with Mitchell when he's healthy. Also big question mark. So that's my kind of reasons for avoiding McCaffrey. We're talking about Jonathan Taylor, why you'd be avoiding him at the moment. Just uncertainty. If he gets traded to the Finns, I think he can start bringing him back into that conversation because I think he's going to have a huge role there.
And with CMC, when you say avoid, like he's top 3 in most projections. Yeah. So say you've got pick 6 and CMC
or more towards the back of the first, and
on
you're still
the board,
there.
You're happy.
Yeah,
there.
and if there's been a run on wide receivers, and you're looking at a guy kind of there that you're not really that comfortable with. Then that's the pick. But I think is
in terms of avoid, if you've got the pick 1 in your draft, you're going Jefferson.
Yeah, I'm going wide receiver all day, all day of the week. Because I think that's it depends. It depends on the drafts. I feel like there's going to be more run on wide receivers, especially for the first and second round, which might slide the running backs down all completely. But every draft's a little bit different. Robinson. Fading because I think his ADP is just way too high for a rookie running back.
What is his ADP?
You look at where CEH,
a few years
ago, kind of same sort of hype and hit that rookie wall. The big issue with Robinson is they have so much mouths to feed in that running game over there at the moment that it's going to be a challenge. Like I don't think as first round you're getting a 1,200 rusher investment. Guaranteed.
No, not guaranteed. No.
Yeah. So, because, Algier got 1,000, over 1,000 last year. Still have Patterson there. I think, they're going to eat into his workload a little bit. So I just don't think he'll get to that kind of level.
His ADP is running back 4. So overall, that's like pick 6, pick 7.
Yeah. And again,
do you think that's too early?
Yeah. For a rookie running back, yes. And where the wide receivers are picking those guys instead. I feel like Saquon, I had him as a void at the moment, again, because you have to pick him really early. He has signed. He does play really well for the Giants, had played really well last year. I just feel at this stage there might be a regression. I feel like that team wants to go more Daniel Jones, less Saquon, with the way the media's kind of played out. And, I think you'd be fine picking him in the first round. I'm just saying I'm avoiding him at the moment, again targeting wide receivers.
You like a Derrick Henry or a Tony Pollard over a Saquon, which rolls us into...
I'm not sure about Henry overall. I'm not sure if I put a note in there about Henry.
Especially PPR.
Yeah.
That's what, Saquon's sort of that.
Yeah, I feel like what I've got now is, if you're picking early... but you're kind of picking end of first round, start of second, is where I'm thinking about these kind of running backs. I think Ekler is a great pick there. Do think he's going to have a touchdown regression. I don't think they can keep up that pace for touchdowns.
Yeah, he had 18 touchdowns last year, so you'd be surprised. He also had 107 receptions.
Yes.
So, again, you'd think could regress. But when we talk about regressions, he was fantasy running back number 1 last year. Yes. He could regress to being like 3.
Yeah. Or he could still be one
He could be one again,
but also not score as many points as he did last year. I just think that the offense they're trying to change the way they play. And having healthy receivers will eliminate a lot of those check downs. I think he's in for a regression, but I still think he's going to get his. I've been actually really interested with Joshua Kelly there. He's been playing really well in the preseason. Whether he'll start eating into his workload a little bit with Ekler, talking about contract and how teams like to. I wonder if he's going to get Melvin Gordon. Is where I'm at, where he doesn't play as well or holds out a little bit, and then the new young guy comes in, takes his spot, and then away he goes. So.
Off the top of your head, what's the size difference between?
Massive.
Yeah, so Kelly's quite
more traditional
size.
As my understanding.
5'11", 212, so a little bit bigger than Ekler. So when we think of Ekler, obviously in PPR, an absolute stud because he catches so many football. And he's bigger. It's not night and day. But yeah, when we think
it's more an age thing,
and goal line work. And
like Ekler's, what's that? Is that
28?
So yeah,
and we see running backs.
That's old for running backs.
Well, that's actually the drop-off age.
Yes,
is 28, 29 for running back. So he's right on the cusp there.
So you said Derrick Henry before. He's 28. I think you're probably fine picking Derrick Henry, early second, late first, if he's there. You still got a question is like, when's the workload going to catch up with him? Spears, the rookies, looks really good, and I think he's, again, an excellent handcuff there for Henry. Of course, I love Nick Chubb. Always going to be a monster there. I think with Hurts gone, I think he's in for a monster kind of role. Hunt gone, in for a monster role, but I don't think he picks up, say, all the receptions that Hunt was getting. I think they want Ford to kind of fill that role, but whether that happens or not, because Ford's been dealing with hamstring all preseason.
Nick Chubb had 27 receptions last year, so if you're in a PPR league, that's something to consider.
Yeah.
You also have to think he had 12 rushing touchdowns and 1,500 rushing yards. In terms of pure runners, possibly the best in the NFL.
Yeah. Well, him and Henry are kind of at that spot. And then I guess they get to Josh Jacobs, and then I said my notes, it depends on the team, maybe in void until you know where he's playing. He's playing for the Raiders. They've got Jimmy G. They're going to hand the ball off a fuckload, so I expect a big workload for him as well. Again, I think he's in that nice spot with these kind of guys around that late first, early second. He was running back 3 in fantasy football last year, and I think 12 on the top 100. So an absolute leading rusher, of course, elite year for Josh Jacobs last year. He had leading rusher 1,653 rush yards. So then those early rounds, we're talking like 2, 3, 4 kind of space. At the moment, I'm avoiding Hall just because of the injury. Like he's actually looked really. I said it before. He looked really good in training camp. Again, Dalvin Cook's there, so I think that's actually affected his ADP a little bit. If he's sliding, then pick him because he's back into the valley kind of territory. But I wouldn't take him super early. I'd let him slide a little bit. What is the ADP for Breece Hall at the moment? I think he dropped 2 rounds. That's a great question. What I've seen. 16. 16. Running back 16. Everything seems to be frozen. So seems to be like reasonable. I would think at 16, you wouldn't want to go much. Like he's around Jahmyr Gibbs, Kenneth Walker, Miles Sanders. Yeah, but if you go overall, can you give me where that is in terms of rounds? Overall. Just give me what his number probably is. Probably 4th round, I would think there. Yeah, if he's in the 40s, 4th round, that's probably doable. Oh, that's not the right Hall. You search for Hall, you got Terrace Marshall, 225 receiver for Carolina. Search for Breece, you'll have better. There you go. Pick 52. 5th round. Yeah. 6th round. But yes, that's he slid a little bit already because of Dalvin Cook, and that's probably great value at that kind of spot if he's getting down there, because I think he will still have his resurgence, and like I said, I think he's going to get probably less touches overall, but I think he can still be dynamic with them. Also, any keeper leagues, the bloke's 22, elite talent. So if you're in a league where you can keep, that changes things a little bit. You want to go a little bit earlier. Yeah. Aaron Jones, I just have concerns about the Packers team at the moment and what kind of his role is. Again, 28, hitting that number. Right on that age. Yeah. I feel like his ADP, again, overall is still a little bit higher. So if he slides, then I'd consider him. But at the moment, I'd be avoiding him because, again, I think there's a couple more options better in and around where he is. And Travis Etienne was the other one. I'm kind of 50-50 on him. He hasn't played much preseason, which is good. Means he's the number one guy. Tank, though, is the big concern, who's played a lot of preseason and been really good. Has that kind of size, and he's got the name, of course. Will he steal goal line attempts? Looking likely. So just how much of his impact will be on Travis. So I've kind of 50-50 at the moment. And it might depend on what kind of round he's falling into in the draft for me to pick him.
Of all the mid-round rookies, the hype around Tank Bigsby might be the highest.
Yep.
So again, Travis Etienne, maybe caution. Aaron Jones, I'm not sure. I am a Packers fan, but here's the argument for Aaron Jones. They lose Aaron Rodgers. They're going to pass the ball less with Jordan Love under center.
Maybe. That's kind of good. I don't know what they're going to do in that.
You would think. You would also think the offense probably isn't going to be quite as good, and it struggled last year. Yes. And goal line wise, he caught a few touchdowns. I think he rushed for like 3 touchdowns last year.
Yeah. And you've got, of course, AJ Dillon,
the Quadzilla goal line work. So
my concern is more that, what's his role going to be in that team, what that team's going to be like. It'll be, kind of interesting. And I feel like there's probably better targets in that kind of space. And those, the two I've got there is Mixon and Gibbs. I think Mixon's kind of clear-cut. He's RB1. No one's really been challenging him in this preseason to try and replace P. Ryan, who went to Denver. So, I think Mixon's in for a huge role there, a massive role. So I'd be all over Mixon.
He's running back 10. Yeah. I think that's value. I'm going to agree with you on that one. I think he's being undervalued.
Yeah. My question,
he's going to be in a good offense.
Yeah. Okay. My question though for him is, he's another one of those running backs that got a 1-year deal, and they might potentially try to move him. So you don't know what it is long term, but at the moment he's going to be with the Bengals, and they're going to stick by him. I think there hasn't been really too many challenges to him. I do really love Chase Brown. I have him in my rookie section. I think he's an elite talent. He's had a really average preseason, but I think he can steal some work as that P. Ryan replacement, get in on third down, catch a couple passes, and see whether he can start to take over Mixon's role, and maybe that makes Mixon expendable. But for the start of this season, I don't think that's the case. I think Mixon's got that locked up, and it might be unlikely the rookie takes it this year. Maybe that's a next year problem.
Jahmyr Gibbs, you reckon of the high, first round rookies, you reckon maybe preferencing Gibbs even compared to Bijan? What's your thoughts there?
Yeah, because I think he's in a better spot, like for picking value-wise, and where you could target him, and then the role he's probably going to have in that team. So he's not going to replace Jahmyr Williams, who's gone to
New
Orleans to go over there for the Saints. I think, who is it? It's Montgomery that's there?
David Montgomery coming from Chicago. DeAndre Swift goes to Philadelphia.
Yeah, so I feel like he's going to fill in that Swift role more. And hopefully be a healthier version of that.
Well, and that's my concern, is that Swift was really highly touted as a running back, especially in fantasy terms, because of his ball catching ability. Does Gibbs fizzle in the way that Swift sort of fizzled? Well, Swift was handy, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, but I think that's the thing. So, you probably don't say Gibbs is going to be Swift. You maybe want it the other way around, Swift dealt with concussions and had some issues with that. Whereas I think, Gibbs hasn't had any of that kind of concerns. If he stays healthy, those games where Swift was elite, that's the potential you could be getting with Gibbs on a more regular basis. Because I don't think as well that Montgomery is going to get the same amount of goal line work that, say, Williams did in last season and get all those touchdowns.
I think he rushed for 18 touchdowns, didn't he, last year?
Yeah, but that was also a product of Swift missing a lot of games. So I feel like, again, great value there. I think he's going to fit perfectly. He's been excellent through preseason, all the training camp stuff, and he looks like electric with the ball in his hands. I think with the way the way they're going to play, he's going to catch a lot of passes and blow people out of the water.
5'9", 200-pound running back who ran a 4.36. So, like you say, goal line work, maybe Montgomery. Catching 50, 60, 70 balls. Yep. Definitely not out of the realm of possibility for Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yep. I think he could still be a 1,000-yard rusher as well. Like maybe he just ticks over it, but I think he'll score some on the ground, but I think he'll catch a lot of balls, which is the value there.
Into the middle of the pack, running backs. You're not a big fan of the KC backfield?
Yeah, just not loving it at the moment because Pacheco's coming back from the injury, hasn't been training too much, and not sure what long-term, they're going to plan to do there. Edwards-Helaire's kind of there and kind of in and out, and not sure on that. And then I like McKinley the most out of a lot of them for that reason. He kind of fits that
McKinnon.
That offensive style. Last year, I think he catched over 50 balls and
scored a bunch of receiving touchdowns.
It's like, I think it kind of fits, what they want to do, where 3 wide receivers, have Kelsey in there, and then have the running back stand next to the quarterback.
Yeah,
I think he'll get a lot of touches, and in the late rounds, like deep in the late rounds, I think he's got a lot of value there. I would avoid most of the KC backfield except for Derrick late in the rounds.
That's it. I mean, KC is obviously pass first offense, and if they're running, if they're running, Mahomes is just as well. Is just a chance of running the ball as anyone else. So,
McKinnon's receiving stats last year: 56 catches, 512 yards, 9 touchdowns, the most amongst running backs.
Yeah. So, you probably think regression a little bit, but I think there's just a role for him in that offense that they will be very good. So I'm kind of 50-50 on the Rams backfield. Well, I'm 50-50 on Cam Akers and Alex Madison at the moment. Whether Madison can replace Dalvin Cook, he's not the elite kind of specimen that Dalvin Cook is, but he's been pretty good at filling in for him. He's going to have a role in that team. They're treating him as RB1. I'm just, again, 50-50 because when you pick him, are you getting Dalvin Cook kind of numbers, or probably not, and that's why he's going middle of the pack?
I don't think you are getting Dalvin Cook, and I think the proof's been in the pudding over the last few years when Cook's been out and it's all been, smash Madison. He's good, like he's okay, but he's not Dalvin Cook.
No. And Cam Akers, I'm just not sure of what he means for that team because he's in and out, but he had an elite back half of the season last year when they kind of committed to him. They really haven't got much options behind him. He hasn't played much the Rams don't play starters in preseason. He's a starter, so he hasn't been playing, so that's a good sign, I guess. I think it might depend a little bit on how healthy that Rams team is, but if it's back to a healthy team that won a Super Bowl 2 years ago, then I think could be a good value, but he's kind of 50-50. I'm toss up there at the moment with Cam Akers.
And then picking, you've got?
I think and this is what I was saying, I think the middle kind of section here is great value. You've got James Conner, Javonte Williams, Alvin Kamara, Antonio Gibson. And why do you target all those guys? Because they're all going to catch a fuckload of balls. So I think Kamara's got these 3-game suspension, which realistically is nothing. So if you can get Kamara in the middle of the pack there, he really doesn't have much competition there. I'm not sure Williams is going to steal that much ball from him anyway.
Not much receiving, at least. Maybe a few goal line.
Yeah. Kamara, they've got Derek Carr, there as the quarterback. I think Kamara's going to get heaps of work. I think Gibson kind of fitting in to the McKinnon role there because they've got, Eric Bellamy? No, it's not a Bellamy. They've got the Washington Commanders OC is the Chiefs.
Eric Bieniemy.
Yeah, so Eric Bieniemy is there, and I feel like Gibson can fill in that role. James Conner's got no one behind him. He catches a bunch of balls as long as he stays healthy. And Javonte Williams, he does have P-Ryan behind him, but he looked pretty good in preseason, so I'm a bit confident on that. And then I'm kind of back on 50-50 on White, Rashad White there from Tampa Bay. He did catch 50 balls last year, which is a really good stat. But then you got to remember he couldn't outplay Fournette. He got benched a lot. He has been made RB1, but I'm just not sure if he has the talent to take it to the next level and actually have all the talent. So
he's the riskiest. He's the riskiest out of all of them, but I think the ceiling is quite high for Rashad.
I'm even going to probably foreshadowing wide receivers. I'd probably be avoiding or picking late rounds for most Tampa Bay Bucks.
Yeah.
That offense with quarterback.
I've said the same thing when we get to wide receivers.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's it. Exactly. Like I don't think they're going to be as an explosive offense, not as a productive offense this season.
Mm-hmm. And my sleepers have changed a little bit because they got blown out of the water.
Two of those teams have changed a fair bit.
Well, three of them in total. So I got James Cook and Damian Harris. Harris has been hurt and hasn't played at all in the preseason, but I think he's got a pretty good role there. It looks like James Cook at this stage will be RB1 for them and will get a lot of balls and play in a very similar, they'll go 3-4 wide regularly over there, the Bills, and he'll be the one running back in there. But I feel like Harris, again, if he can stay healthy, can recapture some form from like 2 years ago and be a dominant rusher, which is kind of what Bills have needed. So it'll be interesting. So I kind of like them for different reasons, but they're going late enough that you can probably take a flyer on them. I had Michael Carter there, if no Dalvin Cook, but Dalvin Cook there kind of makes it a bit hard. I'd be interested probably wouldn't draft him, and I don't think anyone probably will too much, but you could watch and see what his role is. He could still have a third down running back, pass catching kind of role, and see how he fits in there, especially if Hall starts late and Cooks doesn't have enough. He might have some value there. Then I had Jahmyr White and Pierre Strong, and both of those have kind of been blown out of the water because White would have been RB1 with no Jacobs, but Jacobs is back. And Strong, there was some kind of inkling there with, Billy B likes to rotate his running backs, whether he could take over that role a little bit, but then they brought Zeke in to kind of fill in there. So I think he's kind of fallen out there. And I think I covered the rooks that I liked, Tank, Chase Brown's in there. The others really haven't done too much in special teams. Oh, and Spears. Spears is another. If you get Henry, probably pick Spears as your handcuff in the back there.
I think there's a couple that are worth mentioning. I think Zach Charbonnet at Seattle as a handcuff to Kenny Walker, and by his own merits, he was the third running back taken in this group. Could definitely do a bit. And Chicago have got Khalil Herbert listed as RB1 at the moment. Roshan Johnson, the fourth rounder, could definitely have a bit of a role there in Chicago.
Agree, but again, hasn't done too much in the preseason.
We're talking late round here, and obviously keeper rounds, keeper leagues change things a little bit.